On the left-hand side, it says you are and the letter A. On the right-hand side, there's a J and an O, and beneath it, a K and an E. That's what he's looking at. So it says, you are a joke. So at first you think, ha ha, that's funny. It's kind of like saying, hey, you're an idiot, ha ha, you looked, it's stupid. But then you think, no, this is the summation of what they actually believed. You are a cosmic joke.
Hi, welcome to part 2 of the Streams Talk with author Eric Metaxas about his new book, memoir, conversion story, Fish Out of Water, and about education, coming of age, growing up Christian in America, what that means, raising Christian kids, if that's possible, and the struggle believers face in a culture that is rapidly changing from one that shrugs at Christianity and pats it on the head to one that stares at it and kicks it down the stairs.
It's such a jolly beginning.
I'm all about raising people's spirits.
Now listen,
it's better than killing others.
I do have to say that I want to say something about the cover of the book because I always forget this.
Again.
Well, this is the book. I didn't choose the cover. The publicist discovered this among all the pictures that I have in here and said, "You've got to put it on the cover." And I should explain, this is my father in 1958. This is the Statue of Liberty, also 1958. And the picture was taken by my mother. They were dating. It was 1958. They got married in 1959.
Is this the Ellis Island Immigrant Reception Center, or is the base?
No. This is the Statue of Liberty. Yeah.
And this is where they have that plaque.
Give me your tired, your poor,
your future
your
Democrat
troubled
voters.
masses yearning to breathe free,
Yeah.
the wretched refuse of your teeming shore.
They definitely meant Greeks then.
Send me. Actually, no, it's actually a beautiful sentiment,
It is.
beautiful poem by
It is
M.
a
Lazarus,
yeah.
The New Colossus. But we're talking about the old Colossi. Well, actually, what are we talking about? We're talking about my book, Fish Out of Water, Search for the Meaning of Life. And you wanted to talk about, well, we have a lot in common. We both grew up, I mean, this is insane.
Born in the
we
same
were born
hospital.
in the same hospital,
2 years
although
what?
two different mothers, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So we're brothers in Christ, but we're not fleshly brothers. We're not brothers in the flesh. But we were born in the same Astoria General Hospital. I in 63, you in
64, late December 64. But then your family had the good sense to go to Connecticut when you were 7.
First we went to Jackson Heights,
Okay.
which was like 99% Jewish. We were the only Gentiles in our building, and I write about that. And I went to the Greek Orthodox parochial school in Corona, Queens, Transfiguration, Metamorphosis tu Christou. And when I was almost 9, we moved to Danbury, Connecticut, because my parents thought we shouldn't raise 2 boys. People tell us we shouldn't raise 2 boys in the city.
And they were right, because by the time I was 11 and 12, kids in my Catholic school were like, they'd moved from pot to mescaline. I mean, it was the 70s, and hard drugs were trickling into Astoria, and the immigrant parents didn't even know that they existed.
Right.
So you had these people who came from other countries struggling to create a nice life for their kids, and their kids were literally burnouts by 14 and 15 years old. And it was the 70s were a really bad time to grow up.
Yes, that's correct. And we moved to Danbury, Connecticut in 1972, and I felt like we were moving to America.
Yeah.
Because I titled that chapter "Moving to America" because living in Queens in a Greek Orthodox or in an immigrant community, everyone we knew was Greek or immigrants from Germany or immigrants from where, it was just my universe. And so to this day, I always want to know, where are you from? Where are your people from?
Oh, yeah.
Because if they say, well, we've been in Texas since 1850, I think, I don't even get that. Really?
Right.
That's like the Mayflower. How's that possible?
Exactly. It was only like 2 or 3 years ago that I had a single friend whose parents both spoke English as their first language.
Wow.
When I was moving to Texas.
Yeah. So going to Connecticut was a real, I talk, but part of the reason the book's Fish Out of Water is because I had these continual fish out of water experiences, and I say that my father's Greek, so we're growing up in the Greek community, but my mother's German, so I never quite felt like I fit in among the Greeks.
Right.
Because for Greeks, being Greek is their number one hobby. Like, they don't have another hobby.
And also the Germans had just occupied them in a not very nice way.
That's a problem, yes. And also, Germans don't have that kind of a strong ethnic identity in America. Because of the First War and the Second War, they kind of hid it.
Yeah.
but the Greeks are, couldn't be prouder. And so growing up in the Greek community and in Danbury in the Greek community, everybody's parents speak Greek at home. Yeah. My mother's German, so we spoke English at home. So I kind of felt like a fish out of water among Greeks. I wasn't Greek enough.
Yeah.
And I've been working on being more Greek all these years, and I'm getting there. I'm up to 58%. So, but the thing is that I really did feel like entering this American world where people play kickball and baseball and touch football. And
they
I just
drive
thought,
Volvos.
I've never, well, not in Danbury, Connecticut, but Gran Torinos and El Caminos. But I was suddenly entering a world where kids ride bikes and go fishing and do all this stuff, and this was completely new to us. We were city slickers. We went to the playground, and
My mother would kick me out the door with a plastic gun and say, "Go find some kid to play with." I would run out with a plastic gun and find some other kid who had a plastic gun, and we would play mafia and cops. And because the Italian kids all wanted to be the mafia, and he was the losers and got stuck being the cops.
You're kidding.
No,
you're not joking.
Not joking at all.
All right.
Go buy some fireworks in Chinatown and set them off. I mean, that was growing up.
Right. Well, that's the Queens experience and the Danbury experience. So Danbury, Connecticut was idyllic, really. It was wonderful for us. But I also never fit in there for the same reason that you haven't fit in a lot of places, is that I was always the smart kid, the small, smart kid, because I skipped a grade. And so when you're the small, smart kid, all the popular people are not small or smart. They're normal people who play athletics and that kind of thing. So I was like the kid who got the straight A's and stuff, and obviously you were that same kid. So it puts you in a weird category if you're hanging out among the cultural elites and you go to Choate or Exeter. There will be other people like you. There'll be smarter people. There'll be all kinds of people. But when you're going to public school, which I did, you just kind of stick out.
Yeah.
And so I sort of stuck out that way. And then, of course, when you go to a place like Yale, you stick out because you're a working class European immigrant. So I always had this experience of never really fitting in.
Do you feel like one of the reasons that it was tempting to sort of coast along with the secularism of Yale was that it was
to fit in.
It was an opportunity to fit in.
Yes, absolutely. And I didn't really ever embrace it. I just didn't push it away.
Right.
And I think if you don't push it away, it embraces you.
You're like a salmon. If you don't swim upstream, you're floating
You die.
down. You're floating down.
You die. That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's funny. I sort of thought back on my own experience at Yale, and I think at some point I had the following weird realization. I'm not going to fit in here anyway. These people might as well hate me for my ideas instead of just my manners and my accent and my Bon Jovi t-shirt. So I think I don't give myself too much credit for being a loud, outspoken conservative. And you talk in the book about the only reference you make to people like me who were outspoken conservatives is just to describe how hated we were.
Yeah.
Over and over again in very strong terms.
Well, right. But the thing is, my daughter's probably going through that right now. You kind of think like, well, why should I give them a reason to hate me? Because I can think what I want, but I'm not going to come out as this or this or this or this.
And that's a smart decision on your part.
No, I don't know. I can't say that. All I can say is that we do what we do, and then we look back and we try to make sense of it. But I look back on you, even though I barely knew you were an outspoken Christian conservative, and I knew that people knew that you were the guy to hate because you're this bigot, you're fascist. And I look back on it now, and I think you're my hero because I'm not kidding. All these years later, I mean, it's so amazing to me that you, at that age, had the ability to know what you thought and to live it out and say, people can think what they want. I believe in these things. These things are true. And, you're already fighting the battle for truth at that age, whereas that didn't really happen for me until the end of this book, around my 25th birthday, where Jesus dropped a bomb in my unconscious or something like that.
You have some fascinating reflections on Yale and by extension, modern American education, even in most nominally Christian schools, like 90% of them, I would say. And you talk about, and this is something I didn't know, in the 20s, they built this magnificent library, Sterling Memorial Library, that looks like a Catholic cathedral from the Middle Ages.
Yep.
The phone booths look like confessionals. The circulation desk looks like.
Let me give the background because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't know how I discovered this, And to this day, I write in the book about a sculpture. This is chilling stuff. This is chilling stuff. I'll back it up. But the sculpture is what started me on this journey. And I looked up the library, and you realize that, okay, it's 1924. Think about this for a second. In Middle America, things were not falling apart. In Europe, they were after World War I. I learned this from Peter Hitchens, that the thing that happened to us in the 60s happened to Europe in the 20s, where they lost faith in the institutions of the church and the government. That didn't happen until Vietnam and Watergate for us, basically.
Their leaders had lied them into a stupid war. Much worse and much stupider
Right.
than any war.
That's right.
And they'd
Right.
seen millions of people die for nothing.
Worse than die, right?
For diplomatic incompetence, for British national prestige.
But so to tie it together,
Yes.
so they lost faith in everything.
Yeah.
That didn't happen in America roughly till the 60s and the 70s. But among the elites, it happened in the 20s. And once you know that, you look at old movies and stuff, and you can see, you know, the drinking and the flapper culture, and there was something, right? Well, so I look back, and I realize that this library was built in 1926. The ground was broken or something like that. And here's the story. They were going to build a 5,000-seat, glorious new chapel. But just as they were going to do that, Yale decided we're no longer going to have mandatory chapel for students. Huge thing in the 20s. Like, talk about a step toward secularism. I mean, Yale University was a Christian university, ostensibly, no longer going to do that. And because they're no longer going to do that, they took the money that they were going to use for that, and they gave it to John Gamble Rogers, the architect, to create a new, magnificent library.
And it is a wonderful library,
yes,
I've got to say.
And what did he do? He kind of split the difference, and he says, we're going to build a cathedral to secular learning, to knowledge. And it was so much like a cathedral, as you've described, that it was practically blasphemous to many people.
I walking in as a Catholic freshman, accidentally genuflected at the circulation desk.
Okay, that's not true, but that's
No,
fine.
it is true. There's the main circulation desk looks like a high altar. Behind it is a figure of alma mater, Yale, but she looks like the Virgin Mary. And I instinctively started to genuflect. It happens every year. It happens every year.
Well, let me say this. None of this was coincidental. In other words, John Gamble Rogers, when he did this, he thought, we're going to go all out. We're going to make it look like a cathedral. On the outside, which it does, and on the inside, the central aisle looks like the nave of a cathedral, and it looks, the whole thing really, really looks like a cathedral. And when you look at the circulation desk, it looks like an altar. It's meant to. And the mural above it, he called the altar mural. And it's supposed to look like Mary, but when you get closer, it's a woman who is our mother, the university. So this is all a little creepy because it's the secularization of culture that was happening in the 20s that they didn't have the guts to say publicly. But at these elite institutions, wink, wink, nod, nod. And so they were sort of mocking everything already.
And the sculpture
with
you're talking about
millions
was
and millions of dollars. Okay, so if that's not enough, all around Yale are these sculptures, like gargoyle-type sculptures, mocking everything. They're mocking, and I think how weird that is to begin with, that you're mocking, people are spending zillions of dollars, but it's the 20s, so you're taking their money and you're sort of making fun of them and making fun of the whole premise of learning and whatever it is in this wink-wink way that already says, we know there's no meaning of life, we know this is all BS, but you know what, we can have a laugh. We're going to take the money and we'll build it and we'll have a laugh about it.
See, I found it charming, but you are pointing out the
Well,
dark,
I'm
the
getting
dark
to the-
story.
I'm getting to the dark
But
piece.
let me describe them a little bit.
Yeah.
They're like sculptures of people drinking.
No.
people playing sports.
These are the four. These are the
Yeah.
four. You make a right at the circulation desk. These are all over the university, but these are the four. When you make a right, you entered like a cloistered walk. I mean, it's a beautiful medieval cloistered walk built in 1928. And there are four, they call them corbels, these four things making fun of student life. The first one is a student, there's beer and he's sleeping at his desk, he's passed out from alcohol. The next one has a student listening to their radio, which was, you know, the internet or whatever TV of the day. The next one is a student looking at a curvaceous pinup. This is all carved in stone. So they are all not studying at their desks. The fourth one is a student who is studying, the only one who's studying. And what does the book that he has opened, what is he looking at? He's looking at 2 pages. This is this carving. On the left-hand side, it says U, R, and the letter A. On the right-hand side, there's a J and an O, and beneath it, a K and an E. That's what he's looking at. So it says, you are a joke. So at first you think, ha ha, that's funny. It's kind of like saying, hey, you're an idiot. Ha ha, you looked. It's stupid. But then you think, no, this is the summation of what they actually believed. You are a cosmic joke. You want to look for meaning? Go ahead. You know what you'll find when you study hard? Not like your friends who are goofing off. You want to know what you'll find? Here's what you'll find. You'll find that you are a cosmic joke, that the meaning of life is that there is no meaning. Do you want to know? Do you want to look at that? Do you really want to study? Do you want to find out about Darwin and Freud? And do you want to find out what we now know to be true? We're not going to trumpet it because we don't want to lose all the donations from people, but we're going to slyly wink at it right here in stone forever. And so when you make sense of that, you realize other people are trying to figure out the meaning of life, but at Yale, they've already figured out the meaning of life. And the meaning of life is there's no such thing as meaning, there's no God, we're alone in the universe, and we have to figure it out. And the way you figure it out is by joking about it, because you don't want to think about it because you'll go crazy or you'll kill yourself or you'll become like Marquis de Sade or like Adolf Hitler and you'll kill other people because there's no meaning and no good or evil. And
that's not very
we
polite.
don't want to do that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
here's what we'll do. We'll joke, we'll get good jobs, we'll have a good time, and in a few decades it'll all be over. Just don't think about the fact that life has no meaning.
That's right.
And that's basically the takeaway. If you go to Yale and you don't actually learn that in books, you learn it by osmosis because the culture at Yale makes fun of people who take God and truth seriously. People like you, how absurd. We all know that's passé.
So, of course, when you say this was Yale in the 80s, this is virtually every school today.
Today.
Virtually every school.
Right.
Yes, your alma mater. Wherever you went to college, it's my message to the readers, stop giving them money. Period.
If you've given them money, you're crazy.
That's right.
Might as well give money to the devil.
I mean, unless you went to like Biola or
Well, there's a few places that
Hillsdale,
are still hanging in
there
there.
are like 12 colleges in the entire
Maybe,
U.S.
maybe.
that might be worth sending your kid to, but otherwise,
Maybe.
I recommend parents send their kids to the nearest, cheapest community college where they can live at home.
At home, where they're not getting brainwashed.
You don't want the college experience. You don't. If you want to just send them to sex, beer, and communism camp for a year, let them do that. It'll be much cheaper, and then become an electrician or something.
Look, when I was at Yale and you were there, I remember there was all kinds of brainwashing going on. They had, they didn't have it yet when we were there, but they had Sex Week, where they're normalizing prostitution and various perversions. And if you are not on board with that, people think, what's wrong with you?
Pink triangles, remember that everyone was expected to wear a pink triangle button in solidarity with the gay movement?
That didn't happen when I was there. When I was there, and I write about this in the book, Fish Out of Water, a new memoir by Eric Metaxas. In the book, I write about my experience at graduation in '84, where we were expected to wear a ribbon, a green ribbon, and a gold ribbon, and one of them represented solidarity with the union dining hall workers who were getting shafted evidently by the administration, and we were, working, Eugene Debs kind of activists, and so we had to wear that. Otherwise, you were an elitist who was against the working man. And then the other one was to show that we support divesting the school class funds from South Africa.
That's right.
Because South Africa is an apartheid, community, whatever. And the fact of the matter is that what bothers me is that I did it because I thought, well, you have to. And anybody with guts would say, I'm not going to wear that.
A lot of things are worth mocking into the ground. A lot of things need satirizing, but
in this day and age, it takes guts to do that because people say, you can't say that. You can't say that.
I think I just have Tourette's because
No, but John, but that's the point is that, look, I've written biographies of great men and biographies of many men and many women, all of whom had the courage to do what you're talking about. And because of that, they made it possible for other people to do it. If you don't do the right thing, you are contributing to what Chuck Colson called the spiral of silence, where you make it harder and harder for people to speak the truth because nobody is saying it.
That was why I wrote those pieces in the Yale newspapers that I think this is not going to convince these liberal students, but it might give courage to the quiet conservatives out there.
That's right.
And that, oh, wait, this guy agrees with me. And oh, this is better written than the leftist pieces. And it's funnier.
Right.
Oh, maybe it's not that I'm a Neanderthal. But in fact, and Eric, you've done this in the broader culture. I mean, you're the only person I know who's been invited anywhere by Barack Obama. You were at the National Prayer Breakfast. You did a Bonhoeffer book. You could have chosen the dark side. You could be doing TED Talks right now. You could have been on Oprah. You could have ridden that. You could have an NPR show. They used to have a show, Speaking of Faith.
Yeah.
But then they decided that was too religious, and now the same show is called On Being with Krista Tippett.
Yeah.
You could be the next Krista Tippett.
Now, speaking of Krista Tippett, I did a whole interview with Krista Tippett for that show.
And they didn't run it, did they?
They never ran it. No, I have to tell you. But that's when you put a great effort. It would be kind of like we're having this conversation. You know, you take a cab to this place, you go to this great effort, you express yourself, and then they just throw it in the garbage.
You know who else that happened to? Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah.
He did an interview with America Magazine, run by the Jesuits, in which he said, "I don't want to be gay anymore. I know this is wrong. I want to be celibate. I want to lead a good Catholic life." So of course they wouldn't publish it.
You're kidding. Well, he's going to be in my program next week talking about this because I think it's extraordinary. Well, he, like you and like me to a lesser extent, knows how to make fun of the people on the other side, and there's a joy in that because you're forcing them to see how they look, and rarely do we get to do that. So when you do get to do it, you should take advantage of it because that to me is speaking truth in love. It's forcing people to see what is true, and they are not forced to see it in the culture. The culture doesn't make them see these things.
We live in a culture where people want to pay reparations to the great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren of slaves, and they write about it on their iPhones, which were built by Uyghur slaves in China last year, and they're fine with that.
Well, we're not fine with it, are we, John?
Eric, one thing I love about your work is you do highlight the positive. You do show moments of grace, and there are some beautiful moments of grace in Fish Out of Water. So I don't want people to think this is a snarky, sarcastic, nasty book like my books. No, this book has moments of beauty, epiphany, and uplift, and I think it was really smart of you to put that stuff in there because that sells to the rubes.
I didn't. No, but in all seriousness, I wrote this book. I should have said this the first time. I wrote this book specifically for people who do not think the way we do, theologically or politically. The book is certainly not political. Because I was not really particularly political in the first 25 years of my life. But it's not really theological in the sense that I'm writing from the point of view of somebody who doesn't understand things until the very, very end when God gives me the understanding. So I can take no credit for it. It's grace, right? But I do want people to think of it as a book that I can give to somebody who is not on the same page as I am politically or theologically, and just to give them maybe a window into somebody's path that they may be able to connect with. Because I was one of those people. And that's the thing, is like maybe because you weren't one of them, you don't realize that there are people out there who really don't know what to think, and they're trying to figure it out, and all they hear is one point of view.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of drift along. And I feel like those people everybody is hungry for the truth. They might not know it.
It's important to reach out to people who are actually literally ambivalent. I've never experienced ambivalence on any topic, but I do try to empathize with those who suffer from this condition.
It's a condition. But the human condition is not that great, so we have to deal with it.
If only someone would come and save us.
Yeah, if only there were meaning in the universe. Wouldn't that be awesome? But there's not, so after this we're going to go to the parking lot and kill ourselves.
I'm going to switch to
to end on a downer.
I'm going to another multiverse where I'm taller.
Yeah.
I always say life's too short and so am I. And this segment is too short.
That's good.
Thank you for joining us here at The Stream with Eric Metaxas. Please listen to his radio show, camp out outside his apartment, take weird, creepy,
and please,
candid pictures of him and send them to
go
his phone.
to my website ericmetaxas.com, and sign up for my newsletter, because when social media starts cutting you off at the knees, I can't communicate with people. There's so much cool stuff I do, including interviews with you every week on the radio, and I say the only way to get it is sign up for my newsletter at ericmetaxas.com. Thank you very much.
And no discussion of Eric Metaxas would be complete without mentioning MyPillow and Mike Lindell.
If you don't go to mypillow.com or mystore.com, where most of my books are available, and use the code ERIC, it will not go well for you in this or the next life.
That's right. Thank you.